Good morning. The University for Peace is pleased to welcome you to this very important ceremony in honor of the visit of the Right Honorable K.P. Sharma Ali, Prime Minister of the Federal Democratic Republic of Nepal, and his delegation. I would like to give a special welcome to the members of the main table, the Right Honorable K.P. Sharma Ali, Prime Minister of Nepal, Dr. Francisco Rojas Aravena, Rector of the University for Peace, Ms. Lorena Aguilar, Vice Minister of Foreign Relations of Costa Rica, Ambassador Arjun Karki, who is the Ambassador of Nepal to the United States and Costa Rica concurrently, and Dr. Mihir Kanade, who is our Academic Director and Head of the Department of International Law. I'd also like to give a special welcome to the delegation of Nepal, including Mrs. Radhika Shakya, who is the spouse of the Prime Minister, as well as all the diplomats and the members of his cabinet, as well as members of the Costa Rican Diplomatic Corps, our faculty members, our students, our staff members, members of the government of Costa Rica. Now to give the welcome to this event, I give you Dr. Francisco Rojas Aravena, Rector of the University for Peace.
Good morning. Dear Right Honorable K.P. Sharma Ali, dear First Lady, dear members of the main table, Mrs. Lorena Aguilar Villanueva, Vice Chancellor of Costa Rica, Dr. Arjun Karki, Ambassador of Nepal in the United States and in Costa Rica, Dr. Mihir Kanade, Academic Director of the University for Peace. Dear high authorities of the Federal Democratic Republic of Nepal and member of the delegation. Dear Mrs. Gina Guillen, General Director of Protocol of the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Costa Rica. Dear high authorities of the government of Costa Rica, dear member of the Diplomatic Corps, dear member of the United Nations team, dear students, faculty, and staff. Dear friends from Nepal, Namaste, welcome to Costa Rica, welcome to the UPeace. This is an important occasion, and a special day for the University for Peace, in which we welcome the Premier of Nepal and his delegation to the university. We are extremely pleased and grateful for the decision taken by the government of Nepal to sign the international agreement for establish the University for Peace through an official communication present directly to the office of the Secretary General in New York last week. With this act, Nepal has become the 41st country to sign the UPeace Charter. Costa Rica and Nepal are located at great distance from one another. Both nations are very different, but also share important similarities. I would like to highlight some of them, as well as some of the common challenge in building a more democratic and prosperous future. First, Costa Rica and Nepal are small countries. They are both located close to the major world powers, which often influence more than in other countries international and national decisions. Both Costa Rica and Nepal have reaffirmed sovereignty foreign policy marked by a strong road towards a consolidated democracy. Nepal possesses the world's largest mountain. Costa Rica has small mountains, but imposing volcanoes. Today, the Turrialba show their force again. Himalayas represent the beacon for the world that must shine the light for the need to protect It needs resources, just as Costa Rica reaffirmed its need to protect its biodiversity. Both countries are highly seismic zones, and the earthquakes often generate dangerous situations. In both countries, there are need for disaster management is fundamental. For tourism is an essential source of income in both countries. Thousands of people a year seek to explore Nepal's highest peak or to photograph Costa Rica biodiversity. In both countries, in different moments in times, revolution took place with the aim to build democracy. Today, Nepal is on the road toward democratic transition in the efforts to overcome in the post-conflict injuries with the leadership of Right Honorable K.P. Sharma Oil. Each of these similarities allows to think opportunities for bilateral cooperation between Costa Rica and the Federal Republic of Nepal. I am sure the dialogue between the Right Honorable K.P. Sharma Oil and the President Carlos Alvarado will allow this first meeting between these nations on Costa Rica soil to yield excellent result for both sides. Common challenge and risk. In this decade of global uncertainties, with a strong national impact, challenge and risk have increased, particularly the impact of the climate change on both nations, which must protect essential public goods, such as the water and the biodiversity for all the humanity. How to reduce poverty and generate the well-being have been placed in the high priority. Designing policies for benefit of the greatest number is always a complex task, but one of the results generate greater opportunities for democracy. Security. Security issues are becoming increasingly important, and in the country that depend on tourism and foreign investment, one that require more and better measures to combat organized crime. International cooperation in this area is essential. The preparation of the leaders capable to handle natural disaster is a permanent task. Likewise, find the mechanism to attract foreign investment that does not affect sovereignty or promote corruption of business and the political leader. Democratic construction is a permanent task. Putting the people in the center is a fundamental goal. The University for Peace, created almost 40 years ago, has a fundamental mission: to train new generation of leaders for conflict resolution and transformation through prevention, mediation, education for peace, and gender perspective in the transformation of conflict, while at the same time provide training in areas directly related with environmental and international law. In this regard, we hope to establish a fruitful educational relation between University for Peace and the government of Nepal through a small scholarship program. We started small and we hope a very important program after that. Through the government of Nepal can send certain number of the Nepalese students to the university to pursue their postgraduate education. The University for Peace seeks to contribute in a special way to 2030 agenda, with a special emphasis in SDG 16, which is related with peace, justice, and solid institution. Without peace, there is no economic development. Without peace, there is not progress. Without peace, there is not justice. Therefore, an emphasis on consolidate the rule of law will allow us to development of solid institution and strength harmony within our countries and international peace. To development inclusive policies, it's crucial. It's a privilege for the University for Peace and for me as a rector to present a Doctor Honoris Causa degree, the Right Honorable K.P. Sharma Oil, in recognition for his work in favor of peace, harmony, and the road he has paved toward democracy transition in Nepal. Namaste. Thank you. I would like to invite Dr. Mihir Kanade, UP's academic director, to come up and refer the significance of this academic degree. Dr. Kanade.
His Excellency, Honorable Prime Minister of the Federal Democratic Republic of Nepal, Mr. K.P. Sharma Oli, Madam Radhika Shakya, lifelong partner and spouse of the Honorable Prime Minister, Ms. Lorena Aguilar Villanueva, Vice Minister for Foreign Affairs of Costa Rica, Mr. Arjun Karki, Honorable Ambassador of Nepal to the United States and Costa Rica, Rector Francisco Rojas, High Authorities of the Government of Costa Rica, respected members of the delegation of Nepal, members of the Diplomatic Corps and the United Nations country team, dear students, faculty, and staff of the University for Peace. It is my great honor and privilege to introduce His Excellency, Mr. Khadga Prasad Sharma Oli, Honorable Prime Minister of the Federal Democratic Republic of Nepal. Prime Minister Oli is today undoubtedly one of the tallest leaders of Asia, indeed a visionary whose lifelong efforts have been instrumental in Nepal successfully transitioning from a brutal civil war and an autocratic monarchy to a peaceful and secular democracy. Nepal is a very young constitutional democracy, one of the youngest in the world. Its monarchy, which lasted for almost 240 years, formally ended in 2008. However, in reality, it was with the adoption of its constitution in September 2015 that a complete transition was finally accomplished from what was known prior to 2008 as the Kingdom of Nepal to the present Federal Democratic Republic of Nepal. Prime Minister Oli's leadership role has been absolutely indispensable in this momentous period in Nepal's history. To understand the lasting impact of Prime Minister Oli on the current and future direction of Nepal and the larger Asian region, it is important to take a look back at some of the pivotal moments in his incredible life journey. Prime Minister Oli was born in 1952 in Terhathum, Nepal. Called Dhruba as a child, Prime Minister Oli's mother unfortunately passed away when he was just 4 years of age. In 1963, at the age of 12, Prime Minister Oli moved to Japa in eastern Nepal, where he was raised by his grandmother. It was there in Japa that the seeds of justice and equity were firmly planted into Prime Minister Oli's character, a trait that would underpin the rest of his political life. He was so deeply moved by the plight of poor peasants facing inhumane subjugation by the landlords that despite being just 15 years of age, Prime Minister Oli felt compelled to participate in the peasant uprising of 1967 known as the Japa Revolt. With this began Prime Minister Oli's political career, and by 1968, at age 16, he had become a full-time political activist. He joined the Communist Party of Nepal in 1970, the moment he turned 18, and as an active member of the party, his efforts were directed towards reinstating democracy in the country by freeing it from the autocratic clutches of the then existing party-less panchayat regime. For his pro-democratic political activities, he was arrested and jailed at the age of 21 for 14 consecutive years, including in 4 years of solitary confinement until he was released in 1987, by which time he had turned 35. Despite losing his entire youth, imprisonment could not silence his political convictions. Rather, he emerged stronger and more determined in his pursuit of political freedom and liberation from authoritarianism. During his time in prison, he became a prolific reader and equipped himself in English literature, global history, and philosophy. A victim of torture and persecution, Prime Minister Oli has since been a strong crusader of democracy and human rights. Following the successful Jana Andolan, or the People's Movement of 1990, which ended the then existing system of partyless governance, Nepal witnessed the introduction of a multi-party system of democracy, even though still within the framework of monarchical control. In the first parliamentary elections held thereafter in 1991, Mr. Oli was elected as a member of the House of Representatives, that is the lower house of the parliament. Similarly, he was re-elected to the seat in 1994 and 1999. From 1994 to 95, Mr. Oli served as the Minister for Home Affairs in the first government led by the popularly elected Communist Party. Then, in 1996, the Nepali Civil War broke out. This was an armed conflict launched by the Maoists with the main aim of overthrowing the Nepali monarchy and establishing a People's Republic. During this time, Mr. Oli remained steadfastly convinced that the only option left to end the armed conflict was to bring the two sides to the negotiating table and commence a peace process in the country. Mr. Oli's role was instrumental from the genesis of the peace process all the way through its successful conclusion. He was one of the architects of the 12 Points Agreement, a milestone in Nepali peace process and democratic transformation, which was reached between the alliance of parliamentary parties and the then underground Communist Party of Nepal, Maoist, in 2005. His non-stop efforts at peacemaking were instrumental in the adoption of the Comprehensive Peace Accord signed on 21 November 2006 between the warring parties, thus leading to an end of the civil war. The task of sustaining the fragile peace and consolidating the rule of law, democracy, and human rights around this time needed strong leadership. Mr. Oli successfully played his part in ensuring this in his role as the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Foreign Affairs of Nepal from April 2006 to March 2007. Nepal soon embarked thereafter upon the process of drafting its new constitution. Mr. Oli was elected as a member of the Constituent Assembly in November 2013 from his constituency in Japa. He played a leading role in promulgating the democratic constitution, which has consolidated Nepal as a democratic polity based on the principles of human rights, inclusiveness, and rule of law. Promulgating a democratic constitution amidst challenging situation at home and adverse external environment was not an easy task. He indomitably resisted all attempts to undermine the constitution writing process and stood firmly for an independent democratic exercise of Nepali people. After the promulgation of the constitution, he was elected as the Prime Minister in October 2015 for the first time. During his first tenure, which lasted for a little less than 1 year due to coalition politics, he made significant contributions in implementing the constitution, as well as laying the ground towards economic transformation for ensuring sustainable development and prosperity of the country and people. In 2017, he again led his party and the Left Alliance to victory in the provincial and parliamentary elections. His Excellency, Mr. Oli, was once again elected to the post of Prime Minister and took the oath of office earlier this year on 15th February 2018. There is no doubt that Prime Minister Oli has for decades been a torchbearer of democracy, peace, and human rights. His personal and political life has been full of struggles, dedication, and relinquishment for the cause of democracy and people's rights. He is known amongst his associates as a strong leader with enormous courage and self-dignity, who has always placed people's interest at the center of his political and social activities. While there are quite a few important personalities in Nepal's recent history who have played pivotal roles in reaching constitutional democracy as it stands today, Prime Minister Oli's role has distinctly stood out. To understand the impact of Prime Minister Oli on Nepal and its future, one only has to ask the counterfactual. Would Nepal have achieved an end to its civil war in 2006, formal abolition of monarchy in 2008, and adoption of its constitution in 2015, all of these in such a short period, but for Prime Minister Oli? An overwhelming majority of Nepali citizens and external observers would seriously doubt this might all have been possible without Prime Minister Oli. Today, Prime Minister Oli leads Nepal at a time of great turmoil in international relations between the two international superpowers. Prime Minister Oli also faces the challenge of navigating Nepal in the midst of strategic and economic competition between the regional powerhouses of China and India. He has expertly achieved this thus far. All this while staunchly trying to protect Nepal's territorial and economic sovereignty. This is by no means an easy task for such a young constitutional democracy. There is no doubt that Prime Minister Oli is amongst the most accomplished and experienced leaders to continue taking Nepal onto the path of sustaining peace and sustainable development. For his untiring, lifelong, and exemplary efforts at ensuring democracy, the rule of law, and human rights in Nepal, Prime Minister Oli richly deserves the title of Doctor Honoris Causa that the University for Peace, UPeace, very humbly awards him today. Let us please welcome His Excellency Prime Minister Khadga Prasad Sharma Oli to UPeace and to the UPeace family.
And now we would like to invite the Right Honorable K.P. Sharma Ali to share his wisdom with us on this day and very special occasion.
Dr. Francisco Rojas Aravena, Rector of the University, Madam Lorena Aguilar, Vice Minister for Foreign Affairs of Costa Rica, Dr. Meher Kanade, distinguished professors, senior officials, members of faculty, dear students and scholars, senior officials of the government of Costa Rica, excellencies, members of my delegation, and ladies and gentlemen. Buenos dias. Namaste. Dr. Meher Kanade, first of all, I would like to thank you very much for your kind words of introduction. I appreciate your detailed presentation on my political career. So many things even I had perhaps forgot, but I recalled from your introduction. Let me at the outset convey my deep gratitude to His Excellency Mr. Carlos Alvarado Quesada, the President of the Republic of Costa Rica, for the kind invitation and for his invitation extended to me to pay an official visit to this country. I thank the government of Costa Rica for their warm reception and generous hospitality provided to me, my wife Radhika, and my delegation. I must thank a lot to the President and the government, and as well as the University of UN Peace. It is my distinct pleasure and honor to be here at this university. I had heard a lot of things about Costa Rica. I am pleased to be here, to be in this part of the world and this beautiful land that hosts the prestigious University for Peace, an important institution that is working towards the realization of the United Nations Charter, vision for peace and security. I thought that this was an appropriate forum to share my views on peace and democracy following my participation in the UN General Assembly. Nothing could be a more relevant forum than this university. I thank the rector and the whole university family for your kind invitation. What touches me more is your decision to confer the honorary doctorate degree on me today. I am humbled to accept this great honor with a deep sense of gratitude. For me, this honor is an acknowledgement of my country's successful peace process and appreciation of peace-loving Nepali people. Moreover, with humility, I must submit that this recognition is bestowed on a citizen of the country that gave birth to Buddha, an apostle of peace. I must commend the university for its contribution as a center of learning and research to promoting the culture of understanding, tolerance, and peace around the world. Today, it is my great privilege to address the distinguished audience of erudite scholars, professors, and students, among others. I am pleased to share with the distinguished audience that Nepal has become party to the agreement establishing the university. This is a reflection of our deep commitment to universal peace. Now we have become 41st member of the university. Ladies and gentlemen, last week I attended and addressed the general debate of the 73rd session of the UN General Assembly. The world leaders gathered in the assembly spoke of a myriad of challenges that we face today. Backlashes against multilateralism, growing incidences of terrorism and violent extremism, perpetuating poverty and increasing inequality, rising temperature and rising sea levels, continuing civil wars and sectarian strife, persistent food insecurity were among the issues that prominently figured during the debate. No matter where the leaders came from, no matter which country they represented, they were united in their call for a peaceful planet, shared progress, and prosperity of humanity. In the march against many of these wars, the institutions like this university should be in the front line, for they have the answer to the many dilemmas we face today. Education that includes tolerance and compassion, respects diversity and accommodates differences while unleashing the infinite potential of human mind is the answer to the problems the humanity faces today. After all, education is a lifelong process. As a student, one accumulates knowledge and sharpens skills, which later can be used to navigate the world. Education is also about making oneself updated and relevant for what we know and what we do not know today may change. Education that cultivates culture of peace and tolerance while inspiring innovation and invention is the answer to the dilemmas that the world faces today. Such education is a building block to build the citadel of peace and prosperity. I, therefore, would like to commend the contributions that this university has made as a hub of knowledge for conflict, prevention, and peace. Ladies and gentlemen, contemporary world is a confluence of achievements as well as setbacks, of progress as well as perils, of hope as well as despair. While the world has witnessed impressive economic growth and phenomenal technological progress, the benefit has not accrued to all equitably. Inhuman poverty still persists. Inequality within and among societies and nations is increasing. Thousands of lives have been lost due to the civil wars and violent conflicts. The menace of terrorism hasn't abated, and its tentacles threaten the humanity in every part of the world. Extremism that doesn't respect diversity and pluralistic nature of human society is showing its ugly head. We must note that diversity is inherent in nature and no one can go against this. The ecological balance has been upset. With the temperature rising, glaciers retreating, snow melting, and sea level rising, the climate change has accelerated. And our responses do not match the enormous challenges that are the results of human recklessness. Unfortunately, it is the countries with negligible emissions that are bearing the heavy price of climate change. This is unfair and thus unacceptable. We together have the responsibility to hand over a habitable planet to our future generations. We must fulfill our accountability towards them. With the fourth industrial revolution, many groundbreaking achievements have been made. However, the benefit of technological progress has not been judiciously shared among all. The disruptive potential of such change is the world of work. In the world of work is yet to be assessed fully. With the millions of people on the move, migration today is a mega trend. The response is needed to ensure that people migrate as a choice, but not by compulsion. The world needs to come together to ensure the human rights of migrants and to make migration safe, orderly, and regular. Today, the problems are more interconnected than ever. They are not confined to the borders of countries and continents. They are not confined to particular race or nation. However, the tendencies undermining multilateralism and search for global solutions are gaining ground. At the time when response should be joint and collective, rhetoric of isolationism is a regressive move. At the time when international cooperation should be made more robust, protectionism and erosion of trust in the entire edifice of rule-based international order is a discouraging move, which is unfortunate. I believe that the world needs more than ever to reassert its faith in multilateralism and collective solutions. And it is equally important to resurrect and reinvent the rule-based international order, which is inclusive and accommodative of the voices of all countries, no matter how small or big, rich or poor, developed or developing. Ladies and gentlemen, a deeper reflection reveals that many maladies of modern times are rooted in human minds. The attitude of violence shown in some human minds begets wars and human tendency, tragedy. The excess of greed breeding in some begets conflict and corruption. The veil of ignorance embedded in some begets culture of intolerance. For this reason, foundation of peace should be built in the minds of people. This is also the essence of culture of peace. The potential of human mind is not optimally realized. Human imagination, innovation, and invention have brought tremendous breakthroughs in the history. And this potential of human mind is not yet fully realized. There are millions of people living in backwardness who, if provided with proper education and opportunity, will be instrumental in rowing the raft of progress. We have to identify the willing minds and invest in them for their fuller development. Not all people are equal in terms of their capacity. Not all share similar interest in the same subject. Therefore, the role of education is to identify and spur the hidden individual potential through appropriate tools, including counseling. Memory power and creative ingenuity, as well as imaginative power, are the two aspects that make human minds superior to others. Prosperity and progress in isolated enclaves cannot sustain forever if a large chunk of humanity is lagging behind without being able to realize its full potentials. Education should enable human beings to harness the nature's enormous potentials while bridging the gaps between haves and have-nots and ending deprivation and backwardness. Doing so will contribute to defeat the cause of social tension, discord, and conflict. The utility of education lies on its ability to inculcate positive outlook in human beings. This should also foster moral values. This will enable individuals to judge what is right and what is wrong, where to proceed and where to restrain. Educating the minds of people will make them better individuals and open newer horizons. But more than that, it should also contribute to the development of societies and nations. Through education, individuals get enriched. Enriched individuals, in turn, enrich the families. Enriched families help develop society. Enriched societies contribute to enriching the nations. This, in sum, enriches the understanding among the nations at the global level in the interest of humanity at large. Ladies and gentlemen, peace is not a mere absence of war, nor should it be understood as suppressed calmness, forced silence, and circumscribed tolerance. It is a state of mind, way of living, and has much broader dimensions: individual, political, economic, social, and cultural, which are interdependent and mutually reinforcing. At individual level, freedom with responsibility towards greater good of society is the foundation of peace. At political level, meaningful participation in political process and logical power sharing contributes to sustaining peace. A perfect mix of rights and duties fosters an environment conducive to peace. Likewise, in economic realm, the ensuring peace, the disparities for ensuring peace, the disparities between haves and have-nots, and the condition of extractive economic exploitation should be abolished. Joblessness must end. Physical and biological human needs that are basic and justifiable must be met. At socio-cultural level, tolerance and compassion in society and interfaith and civilizational harmony and unity in diversity are the catalyst for peace. This perspective calls for promoting the concept of comprehensive democracy that embraces political, economic, social, and cultural aspects to empower individuals. The Sustainable Development Goals' underlying philosophy of leaving no one behind, I see an element of social justice. My vision of a comprehensive democracy is also inquired on social justice. So, there is a perfect match between LDC's ultimate vision and the objective of this comprehensive democracy I am talking about. I think research programs of this university could address the interrelationship between comprehensive democracy and SDGs for the detailed analysis. In this regard, my government is willing to contribute to research activities of the university by sending some students. Ladies and gentlemen, the UN Charter captures the aspirations of people for universal peace to save succeeding generations from the source of war. To promote and defend these aspirations, both structures to maintain and culture to sustain peace are needed. The international institutions, rules, UN peace missions, and mediation are among the important tools as far as the structures are concerned. Sincere fulfillment of moral and legal obligations by all member states and upholding the values of peace and harmony by every citizen are essential to maintain and sustain peace. Here lies the important role of peace education. In this sense, the United Nations has done justice to the core of its mandate by establishing this university. Ladies and gentlemen, for peace to prevail, the first step is to understand and address the root cause of conflict that are of different scope, scale, and nature. Poverty, inequality, and backwardness often provide a breeding ground for conflicts. So do intolerance, intimidation, and bigotry. Self-centered parochialism and lack of far-sightedness further aggravate the situation. A myopic and selective approach does more harm than good. environmental distress, discrimination, social discord, deficit of trust, and denial of sovereign rights of nations over natural resources also contribute to fueling conflicts. More study and research of such causes of conflict can help broaden our understanding and anchor the peace universally. Universities like this have an important role to generate, preserve, and transfer knowledge about peace and conflict resolution. Needless to say, the custodians of peace are the young people. Therefore, their contribution and stake in consolidating peace is paramount. So, is their role in defending democracy and championing the human rights values. When I say this, I recall my days as a young political activist fighting for democracy. In those days of autocratic rule in my country, arbitrary detention and torture were common. As Dr. Kennedy explained, that myself, I was imprisoned for 14 long years. That also included a period of solitary confinement of 4 years. In our pursuit of democracy, we never relented, never bowed to our authority, and never gave up our conscience. Our perseverance and indomitable courage shaped our struggle for political transformation. Inspired by the universal acceptance of human values, we had numerous struggles and movements for people's rights and democracy that culminated in the promulgation of the Democratic Constitution in 2015. Gender perspective in peace is equally important. Women have an important role to play as agents of peace and harmony. Ladies and gentlemen, the primacy of peace is well established in the teachings of Buddha, who is an enlightened son of Nepal, born in Lumbini of Nepal more than 2600 before, taught the path of peace and non-violence, and his teachings are of eternal relevance to the world. The relevance and utility of certain things get dismissed with the passage of time, but Buddha's message is of timeless value. It is pertinent today as it was in the time of its articulation. The Charter of the United Nations embraces this eternal and universal message of peace of Buddha. We find in his teachings an illuminating philosophy for peace. The essence of Asian philosophy is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which means the word is one family. The world is one family. Likewise, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, Sarve Santu Niramaya, we chant the holy mantra, which means all human beings should remain happy. And last goal and last desire of the human being is happiness, to achieve happiness, to be happy, is the core of our welfare vision. Derived from long philosophical tradition, the relevant and appeal of these maxims are universal. This philosophy doesn't discriminate humanity on any ground. Our vision for peace is guided by this philosophy. Unfortunately, as witnessed in other parts of the world, in different times and circumstances. Nepal too experienced a period of armed conflict that was the outcome of the prevailing circumstances and had much to do with dissatisfaction of the people, fueled by the lack of opportunities for economic and social development. However, the political parties of Nepal and the armed rebels managed to come together proactively to resolve the conflict through peaceful means and laid grounds for peace. As a result of homegrown and nationally led and owned process, a peace accord was signed in 2006. Formally ending the armed conflict, management of arms and combatants was successfully handled to pave the way for political process. In the last decade, Nepal has undergone political transformation of historic proportions. We moved from a unitary monarchical system of governance to federal democratic republic polity, which has now been institutionalized by the new constitution. The constitution promulgated by the Constituent Assembly, elected by Nepali people, is a forward-looking, progressive and human rights-based document which ensures inclusive and participatory democracy, decentralized federal structure, socio-economic justice and rule of law. This has marked the conclusion of the uniquely successful peace process. Our conflict resolution experience and the peace process can provide an important case study for research works, including in this university. Our experience is testimony of the fact that which requisite political will and sense of accommodation, negotiations and dialogue can resolve conflicts. We must be aware of the elements that seek to drive a wedge between different groups by taking advantage and their differences and discards to perpetuate conflict to fulfill their vested interest. We must resolutely defeat them. Ladies and gentlemen, the historic elections that were held last year at federal, provincial and local levels not only recorded a high number of participation, but also elected people from all sections of our society. More than 41% of women have been elected in the representative bodies at all levels. Our experience is a testimony of the fact that a strong political will and constitutional guarantee can be instrumental in empowering women to ensure their legitimate share as well as in making democracy inclusive. Having settled the political issue, the history has bestowed on us the greater responsibilities to undertake socio-economic transformation to sustain the political gains we have achieved. With an overwhelming mandate of people, the government that I head is determined to build on this political transformation and building on this political transformation and accelerating its drive for prosperity and sustainable development. Our vision is guided by the long-term goal of prosperous Nepal, happy Nepali. To realize this goal, our priority is to ensure decent jobs and gainful employment for our working-age population, modernize our agriculture, utilize our energy potential, especially in hydropower, and promote development of infrastructure, connectivity, tourism, and human resources. In doing so, we will need investment in multiple sectors. And we have put right policies in place to make foreign investment in Nepal safe and profitable. Before concluding, I would like to stress the need to promote enhanced collaboration and cooperation between the University for Peace and universities, think tanks, and policy institutions of Nepal in advancing the common cause of peace. When we talk about interrelationship between peace, democracy, and development, we must not forget that democracy and development are contingent upon peace. That the investment in development will crumble in the absence of peace. That aspirations for democracy will evaporate in the absence of peace. With this note, I would like to thank you, Dr. Francisco Rojas Aravena, Rector, and the entire university fraternity for the honorary doctorate, and as well as this opportunity to share my thoughts. I wish the university all success in its noble mission. Thank you all. Muchas gracias. Danke.
Thank you very much, Mr. Prime Minister, for your incredibly inspiring words, and Dr. Canale for that beautiful introduction of the Prime Minister's very impressive and inspiring political career. And now we'd like to invite the Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs of Costa Rica, Ms. Aguilar Revelo, to give us a few words on behalf of the government of Costa Rica.
His Excellency, Mr. K.P. Sharma Oli, Prime Minister of Nepal, His Excellency, Ms. Radhika Shaika, spouse of the Prime Minister, Honorable Dr. Francisco Rojas Arevana, Rector of the University for Peace, His Excellency, Mr. Arjun Kumar Karki, Ambassador to Costa Rica, His Excellency Mr. Shankar Das Bairagi, Foreign Secretary, His Excellency Mr. Vishnu Prasad Rimal, Chief Advisor of the Prime Minister, honorable members of the Nepali delegation, members of the Diplomatic Corps, students of the University for Peace, ladies and gentlemen. I would like first to extend a very warm welcome to Costa Rica, to the honorable delegation of Nepal, which is presided by His Excellency Mr. K.P. Sharma Oli, Prime Minister of the Federal Democratic Republic of Nepal. I'm very pleased to accompany you, Mr. Prime Minister, on behalf of the government of Costa Rica in this solemn ceremony of great importance for this university, and in which the Dr. Honoris Causa has been awarded to you in recognition of your work in favor of peace and harmony and the road you have paved towards democratic transition in Nepal. It is a privilege to be a witness of honor in this prestigious event, which takes place in one of the most significant campuses in Costa Rica. The University for Peace is an institution that represents the highest values of the United Nations systems and those of Costa Rica. It is an academic institution whose main objective is to be forward-thinking, transformational, and inspirational, and at the service of humanity and with the central objective of building a peaceful world. It has the mission to provide humanity with an international institution of higher education for peace and with the aim of promoting among all human beings the spirit of understanding, tolerance, and peaceful coexistence to stimulate cooperation among people and to help lessen obstacles and threats to world peace and progress, in keeping with the noble aspirations proclaimed in the Charter of the United Nations. And in this regard, I express, Mr. Prime Minister, the most sincere desire of the government of Costa Rica to cooperate with you, your government, and your people to achieve these objectives. As you might be aware, Mr. Prime Minister, I have a very special appreciation to your country. For 2 years, I had the honor to work in Nepal and to support the development of your Gender and Climate Change Gender Action Plan. This allowed me to visit many regions of your wonderful country and receive the blessings from the Himalayas. Destiny always faces world leaders through unknown paths, plagued by enormous challenges with unknown results. And this is why only by working together we have the opportunity to overcome obstacles and create a more just and prosperous world for all. Global instruments such as the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, the Paris Agreement, and other transformative agreements represents the highest aspirations toward ambition in climate action and sustainable development. And it's only by committing to its full implementation, Mr. Prime Minister, that we will be able to guarantee the construction of peaceful and resilient societies that can respond to an increasingly demanding reality. The government of Costa Rica trusts that together with Nepal, we will be able to work on adequate and comprehensive responses to the enormous challenges that lie ahead of us. I congratulate you once again, Your Excellency, and wish you the greatest success in your short visit. We look forward to have you back in Costa Rica very soon and continue working together for a better and more peaceful world. Muchas gracias. Namaste.
Thank you very much to Vice Minister Lorena Aguilar for her beautiful words, and we would like to welcome her back to UPeace. Many of you might not be aware, but the Vice Minister used to be a professor in the Gender and Peace Building Department, so we're incredibly happy to have her back at the university in this new capacity and hope she will continue to visit us very many times in the near future. And we're going to now invite Dr. Karki, Dr. Arjun Karki, the Ambassador of Nepal to the United States and Costa Rica, to offer us some words.
Right Honorable Prime Minister K.P. Sharma Oli, our First Lady, Madam Radhika Shakya, one of the leader of the delegation, Mr. Vishnu Prasad Rimal, Chief Advisor to the Prime Minister of Nepal, Foreign Secretary Bairagi, member of the delegation, Rectors Francisco Roas, Vice Minister Lorena Aguilar, Excellencies, Costa Rican government officials, distinguished guests, UN officials, dear students, ladies and gentlemen. Buenos dias. After listening the distinguished speaker, including the Right Honorable Prime Ministers and the generous introduction of Dr. Mihir Kanade, there are hardly anything left for me to speak to you. However, I would like to share a few words with you. This is a distinct honor and pleasure for me to join the Right Honorable Prime Minister's delegation of this historical visit after we have established our bilateral relation sometime 4 decades ago. I would also like to thank the University for Peace, led by Rector Francisco Roas, for his generous invitation to my Right Honorable Prime Minister and deciding to confer honorary Causa to our Right Honorable Prime Minister. On behalf of Government of Nepal and Prime Minister Oli's delegation, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the entire university family. This solemn ceremony organized this morning here in San Jose, Costa Rica, will not only strengthen our bilateral ties between two countries, but also help us to strengthen people-to-people contact, people-to-people relation between the citizens of these two great countries. We are far away in terms of distance, but we are very close by heart. And also, we have many similarities between these countries. We have mountain, we have forest, and we have very kind-hearted people. So this will definitely help us to not only to build relation between two countries, but also Prime Minister Oli's vision of promoting not only North-South cooperation, but also learn from the South-South cooperation. In a changing global arena, this will really add new dimension in modern diplomacy and cooperation between nations. Thank you very much. I would appreciate your time and your support to Government of Nepal, Prime Minister Oli's delegation, and also generous introduction of Prime Minister Oli. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Ambassador Karki, and I would like to once again thank the members of the main table, Dr. Karki, Vice Minister Aguilar, Rector Francisco Rojas, the Right Honorable Prime Minister Oli, Dr. Mihir Kanade, and to all of you for joining us at an occasion that is so important for our university, that marks a new step towards consolidating the work of the university as a member of the UPeace community. As I'm sure students, faculty, and staff feel the same way, I feel coming out of this very inspired and very proud to be part of the UPeace community, and I hope that it had the same impact on all of you. And thank you so much to the delegation of Nepal for honoring us with your visit to our country and to our university. And if everybody would just join me in standing up and giving a large round of applause to the Prime Minister. Thank you very much and have a nice day.